Welcome to the Living in Toronto YouTube channel. Today we're going to discuss bidding wars, and I'm going to provide you with lots of insight, tips, and strategies on how to be successful. And there's really nothing to be fearful of. It's all about knowing your market. So stay tuned and let's get right into it. The biggest fear most people experience in entering into a bidding war, it's all about the price. How much am I going to have to pay is what most buyers are going to ask. And the reality is, you and your realtor should sit down before you even go out and look at a home and understand the home that you're considering. What is the price range on that property, or what we would call market value? As long as you know what the market value is, you can determine if that property is affordable or not affordable before you even go out and look at the home. So that way, when you get into a bidding war situation, you're pretty prepared knowing that you're going to be competitive for a given property, and that will help instill a lot of confidence and knowledge as you move forward. Winning the bidding war. The concern is always price. And price is a critical component. Believe me, the sellers typically want the most amount of money possible, but it's not the only component to consider. You're going to have to know what kind of financing you can arrange, what kind of closing date can you accommodate, and if you're going to have any conditions with your offer, the seller's going to want to know that you have the ability to close the deal. So these are all also parts of your offer that are critical. When it comes to choosing the price, really you need to do your due diligence before you even go and look at the houses. You need to be knowing what is your budget. The list price sometimes is irrelevant. So if a property is listed for $849.9 and your budget is, $900, if really those types of properties are selling for $950, $1 million, your realtor should be able to tell you that before you even go out and look at the home. So it's imperative you have a great realtor on your side that can educate you on what the actual values are in any given neighborhood, so that you're an informed buyer, and it'll help you eliminate properties so that you can be efficient, not waste any of your time, and save yourself from disappointment, so that when you do find the right house and it's within your budget, you know you have a legitimate opportunity of obtaining the home. Then you can sit down and really draft and construct an offer to put you in the best position possible to be successful. A common question I'll get often when I'm working with my clients, and say there's 8 offers on a property or 10, it really doesn't matter. And that's always my opinion, is don't worry about how many offers there are. Let's offer what the property is worth to you and what you can afford. And don't worry about what other people are offering, because we really have no control over that. And to be truthful, because I work on the listing side from time to time as well, you might have 15 offers and it sounds crazy, and sometimes it is, but the reality is, there might only be a few really legitimate offers in that scenario. There's going to be some of them that are really low. They're just not going to be under any real serious consideration, and those sellers will eliminate those people immediately. So don't be fearful of the number of offers. Always be prudent and know what is the market value of the property. That's critical to knowing if you should even be competing on any given property. Again, don't get caught up in how many offers. Just, again, have a good agent, know your market, so that when you're going in with an offer, you're totally confident that you have a legitimate opportunity. Another key factor, part of the bidding war process, is, what's the process that the listing agent is going to require in order to facilitate the sale of the home? And agents can be different and have different processes. Some are professional and organized, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes it's a bit of a frenzy at the end. So you as a buyer are always sitting on pins and needles, wanting to know, how many offers are there? And, let's say the offer time is scheduled for 6 p.m. and at 5 o'clock there's 3 offers, and then at 6 o'clock it's up to 10 offers, and then offers are still coming into like 7 o'clock, and everybody's getting delayed, and you're wondering what's going on. It's part of the process. People wait to the last minute sometimes. That's unfortunate. But when you're dealing with a real professional realtor, they're going to facilitate this so that it's organized and punctual, and it's a very quick process. And what's important to know about their process is, are they going to give you a second opportunity? So you need to know if you have to go in with your very best offer, or if you're going to submit an offer with the chance of improving. Now, I've seen it happen a number of ways, and sometimes people will leave money on the table. They don't get a second chance, and then when they find out what the house sold for, they say, oh, I would have paid that. Well, it's always best to go in with your best offer right from the get-go and not look back, because Sometimes by holding a bit back, you're letting other people be competitive with you, which now is going to drive the seller and the listing agent to really question that, you know what, if two offers are really close or three offers, whatever that might be, they're going to send those people back and offer them the opportunity to improve. And who's to say that in the second round that you have the best offer? Somebody at that point might pay more than what you were going to pay. But if you would have just blown them out of the water from the get-go and went with your top offer, it may never even gotten to that opportunity. So my advice, when you get into a bidding war, you come up with your max budget and what you're comfortable paying and what you can afford, and you go for it. Know what the market value of the property should be, know what you can afford to offer, know what kind of conditions, if any, you're going to be putting in, how much deposit you're going to be submitting, and really make sure you have your deposit with the offer. So your deposit funds have to be available. Make sure that you're organized, because again, a seller's biggest concern is going to be, are you going to show up with a deposit or when? And they're not going to wait 3, 4, 5 days. Legally, they have to have it within 24 hours. But when you're competing with other people, the really organized and professional people, they're going to have the check with the offer. So that's just a piece of advice to consider in any of these circumstances. But again, you get back to price or strategy. How do you want to handle the process? And, often I'll get asked, Stuart, will I get a second opportunity to submit an offer? And the answer is, I don't know. It really depends on the listing agent, the seller. They get to determine if they see an offer they like, they can just take it and off they go. So my suggestion is generally put your top offer that you're willing to pay right from the get-go. Because sometimes if you don't, what you do by holding some money back, you either give the opportunity to somebody else where the sellers ain't going to ask the people to go back and improve their offer. So now you're just inching the property up. And that can sometimes lead to it costing more money if you're going to get that property. Whereas if you just went and blew everybody out of the water from the get-go, the seller might look at the gap to the second offer and say, there's no way the person's going to come up that much. So we like this offer. They take it and they're done with it. It's quick, it's easy, they're happy, and off they go. But if you think, I'm going to hold a little bit back and then there is a second round, well, there's always the opportunity for somebody else to come in and put in a greater offer than yours. So you do take that element of risk, at least in the first round. If you put out your best offer, if you get it, great. If you don't, well, it wasn't to be anyhow. Somebody else had more money with deeper pockets and you weren't going to get the property. So my suggestion is go with your top offer right from the get-go and blow everybody out of the water and don't look back. And as long as you've done your due diligence up front, you know that the property's worth what you're offering. So there's really nothing to be fearful of. Another critical element in drafting your offer in a multiple offer situation is going to be, what kind of conditions should I put in my offer? And this is a common question I get asked all the time. And it's really going to depend on your comfort level, how aggressive you want to be with your offer. My suggestion to folks is always do all your due diligence up front. If you really want to do a home inspection on a property because you have legitimate concerns, do the home inspection before making the offer. And you might say, well, Stuart, what if I don't get the house and I've spent, say it's $500? Well, consider it a cheap insurance policy. It's better to know what you're buying than go in blindly and not feel comfortable and confident with what you're buying. So, do your home inspection report. Maybe it unravels something that you're not prepared to deal with. Then you may even choose a different path and not even decide to offer on the home, and maybe you've dodged a bullet. Or maybe it's reaffirmed that, yeah, this is a great home. It's in really good condition. Any fears that we had, we're more confident, and there's a real sense of, let's just move forward. Now you really want the home. You've positioned yourself accordingly. You don't have to put that condition in your offer because you're totally satisfied by it. The other condition that's really important is the financial condition. And your lender is always, they're always going to advise you to put that financial condition in any offer you make. That's them being prudent, and not that they're wrong, but they also know the reality in a competitive situation that you're not going to have the luxury of leaving that condition in an offer. So if you have a really good mortgage professional, and if you don't, your realtor should be able to suggest one to you. You should be able to send a copy of the listing, and that mortgage person should be able to help you with how is this house going to appraise, because you want to make sure that you have enough funds in order to close the deal, because your down payment amount, if you're, you really have to know how a house is going to appraise, and this is something your agent is going to have to educate you on to make sure that you are going to qualify for the mortgage that you've been pre-approved for. And that's a whole different topic of conversations. If you have any questions, please comment below, and I'm always happy to respond to any questions you have specifically. But it is really critical to know, and you want to submit as clean of an offer as possible. So the reality is, you're not going to get to leave your financial condition in the offer or the home inspection condition, which are the two big ones that gives you as a buyer an out in the contract or from the deal. So you can walk away from the deal, get your deposit back, wash your hands of it, and go on, look for the next home. Where the seller is going to look at it, they're going to say, look, we want a firm offer because we want to know the house is sold. They want the good deposit. They want no conditions. They want a legally binding contract. So, and again, that's where sometimes maybe not the biggest price is going to get the home. And this could be part of your strategy to kind of get a sense of, yeah, there may be a higher offer, but if it has conditions, there's an element of risk that a seller might be not willing to take. So if, things are pretty close, they're going to take the firm offer almost every time. I know when I'm working on the listing side, my suggestion to a seller is if someone's got their check and they've got a firm deal, even if the difference is $5,000 or $10,000, take the firm offer. Otherwise, there's an element of risk. And if the other people can't get financing, or a home inspection reveals something they don't want to deal with, or they use that as a tactic to try and renegotiate the price downwards, all of these things can happen as an element of surprise to a seller. So sellers are conditioned and coached to take the firm offer. So you need to position yourself, and your strategy should be to be able to go firm, but with confidence, knowing that you've done all your due diligence, you've just done it in advance. And again, nothing to be fearful of. Another critical element in the multiple offer process that you're going to want to consider is, can you personalize the situation? Does the seller have any kind of emotional attachment to the property? What kind of person are you dealing with? And I've had some great stories from both the listing side and from the buy side. And I, vividly remember a listing I had where a couple had lived in their house for about 50 years. They raised their children in this home. They were very emotionally attached to it. They really cared for their neighbors, and they assured their neighbors that, we're not going to sell this house to a developer. We're going to sell this house to a nice family that's going to fit into the neighborhood and align with everybody who lived on the street. And, I'll hear stories of people saying how, it's not about the money. I'll out of principle sell it to someone else. And generally speaking, it does become about the money, and people take the most amount of money they can get. It's how we're designed as humans. It happens. And I had a seller that took $50,000 less to not sell it to a developer that, in fact, we knew the developer would probably make an offer on this house at the time of listing it. We discussed it. That family flat out told me under no circumstances would they sell it. I never believed in a million years that they would take $50,000 less at a principal, but they did. And it's an awesome story, and it does happen. And it's just something to be mindful of when you are getting in a lot of competition, to be creative and to really try and position yourself in the best possible light to give yourself the best possible opportunity. I was representing a buyer in another situation, and we made an offer on a home, and it was interesting because we actually met the home seller during one of our visits prior to even making the offer. And the home seller and my client, the buyer, were both from a small town in England, the same small town. So they had this real connection. And when we did our offer night, we made sure we submitted a letter to remind that seller who we were, who the offer was coming from, because there's a lot going on at that time, and you want to make sure you stand out from the crowd. So we made a really emotional letter about, being from this small town, and we knew the seller would have a connection to that. And ultimately my client got the house, and she didn't have the highest offer. Now, we had a clean offer. So again, going back to using the conditions or not using conditions to our advantage. And it wasn't a significant amount different. It's not like they took $20,000 less, but our offer was about $5,000 or $10,000 less than the other offer. And they accepted our offer because they really wanted this woman to get this house that came from the same town. And when the winner was selected and they saw us and the people, they all hugged, and it was a really emotional moment for these people. In that case, it was important that, again, the buyer be, a certain type of person that was going to take care of their home. They were handing their home to another like-minded individual, and it really made them feel good about themselves. So again, it's usually about the money, but also always consider the personal side of the transaction and try to position yourself as best you can. So if there's a letter that you want to write, submit it. It's generally not going to hurt you. It can only help position you stronger. But sometimes you really have to pay attention to the kinds of connections you can make in these transactions and the kinds of people that you're dealing with and how they value different things differently. And that's just a piece of advice I have. So again, if you have any questions, comment below. I'll always answer those comments, and I'm always happy to share my stories. So I hope you found my video on multiple offers helpful. Consider subscribing to my channel, and by clicking on the notification bell, you'll be notified anytime I upload a new video. Otherwise, I'll talk to you soon and catch you on the next video.